Welcome back. It is day 2 of 2018, and hopefully you haven't broken your New Year's resolutions quite yet. I'd like to welcome to the show KXL's Lars Larson and former Portland City Commissioner Steve Novick for a special New Year's edition of Left Hook, Right Jab. Welcome, gentlemen. And I bring up resolutions because that's what we're talking about tonight. And here's your question. It's simple. Did you make a resolution? And if so, what is it? We'll start with Steve.
Happy New Year, Laurel.
Thank you.
I made several. First of all, I'm going to keep careful track of the price of pizza. Because, Lars, you promised that somehow, magically, the Republican tax bill was going to cut the price of pizza. So I'm going to track the price of a large pepperoni at 3 national chains. And when that price doesn't go down, you're going to have to admit the Republican tax bill on your terms is a failure. Second, I've got to get better at responding in the moment to the silliest things you say. Like 2 weeks ago, you said that Jesus loved private charity, but was opposed to government help for the poor. I should point out that Jesus never said any such thing. And in fact, when Bill Clinton cut welfare, the Catholic bishops opposed it. And they specifically said that private charity would never make up for the loss of government assistance. And third, I'm going to eat more lentils. Because if we want to save the world from climate disruption, we need to eat food that takes less energy to produce. And lentils are at the top of the list.
Oh my goodness. Steve, I'll tell you, my New Year's resolution is to spend less time focusing on consensus. You know, consensus drives us in exactly the wrong direction. Last year, the consensus was Donald Trump couldn't even win the nomination. Then the consensus was, well, he can win the nomination, but he can't win the presidency. And he can win the presidency, but he can't be effective. And the consensus, even as recently as a few months ago, was Donald Trump will never get a vote on tax reform in America. It hasn't happened in a third of a century. It's not going to happen now. He's just not very effective. And that turned out not to be true either. There's also a consensus that says a guy like this doesn't know foreign policy. There's no way in the world he's going to be able to bring about any kind of change in the Middle East. And yet, we saw him say, let's recognize the truth that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. And not only has the United States done that, but now some smaller countries are jumping on board. 10 of them are said to be in line to do the same kind of recognition. And I figure the rest of them, like France and Germany, the usual anti-Semite countries, they'll get behind it sooner enough. So I'm going to spend less time paying attention to consensus and more believing that almost anything is possible.
Well, Lars, I think you're confusing consensus with conventional wisdom, because consensus is normally the idea that we all try to work together to reach agreement on something. And I actually think that we could use more of that in America, though maybe not in the show, because then the show would be more boring. I forgot to mention 2 other resolutions. I'm going to work hard to make sure that the magnificent Andrea Valderrama gets elected to the Portland City Council. And this fall, I'm going to cross the river to Vancouver to do whatever I can for whoever gets the Democratic nomination against Jamie Herrera Butler, so I can do a small part of the historic Democratic takeover of the House.
You're going to go after my member of Congress? Come on,
yes.
Steve. And as far as working together, the problem is, even when you come up with sensible things like tax reform, and you say to the Democrats, would you like to have even one of your members vote in favor of it? Even the ones who voted in favor of tax reform in the past, they say, no, we want nothing to do with it. So as far as I'm concerned, unilateral leadership is a good thing for America.
Well, when you craft a proposal with no input from the other side, you can hardly expect the other side to jump in.
Well, I hope you'll let us know how that pizza watch goes. We'll all be watching that. Lars and Steve, thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Back to you, Joe and Tracy.